Well, it's like a party of seismic activity, a veritable red ball of moving parts. It seems to be bustling. So what am I describing? What I'm describing is Mars. Believe it or not.
Appear to be a cold, barren wasteland, scientists say it's far more active. In fact, a new mission from NASA has uncovered ongoing seismic activity on Mars, declaring the red planet to be alive. InSight is a robotic lander tasked with the mission of studying the deep interior of Mars. Some of the tools include a seismometer for detecting quakes. Studies for the craft's first 10 months were published this week, painting a picture of the planet's activity, including Mars quakes, dust devils, and magnetic pulses. After the studies were released, the InSight mission tweeted, quote, "Mars is alive, and I'm getting more of the big picture every day."
What you got for us? Because they're saying that your next therapist may not actually be an actual person. It may be artificial intelligence.
Oh, no.
AI. So they're trying to say that they're creating, or companies are working on AI to be your next therapist. They're going to provide you mental health advice. And they're going to give you counseling, prescribe, diagnose stuff, prescribe treatment.
Oh, no.
And some people say it could be even better than a doctor.
I'm tired of them taking everybody's jobs.
But that's not your job. But I'm just curious, because there are several companies that are working on this. Would you go to a virtual therapist? Would you talk to a robot?
Artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. Once humans develop artificial intelligence, it would take off on its own.
Should we be fearful of artificial intelligence and the pace at which it's progressing? Or should we fear fear itself and the risk of it stifling innovation?
It will not be man or machine. Our purpose is to augment and really be in service.
At Sotheby's auction house, an unusual painting is up for sale. It's actually a mix of hundreds of thousands of paintings, fed through software that generates an ever-changing portrait.
My hands are off, and so I also then have to hope that it will continue doing what I had in mind when I set it up.
Artist Mario Klingemann taught this artificial intelligence his taste in art, specifically European oil paintings. Even the most traditional institutions are also letting AI curate art. For instance, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, MIT, and Microsoft are using AI to predict which art you will enjoy based on your social media profiles and preferences. Microsoft's Noelle Lacharity says it's a way to tailor art for anyone.
We're literally curating a very personalized data set based on that individual.
The system can, in theory, say, oh, she liked Klimt and she liked the Babylonian stuff.
That's right.
Once the collection is scanned, the museum can recommend art as easily as online stores recommend books or clothing.
We've tagged 5,000 years of human history. We really believe there's an object that can inspire every single person in the planet.
Until now, we thought of our taste and our creativity, all of this as part of the unique magic of being human, right? Well, what happens if machines begin to pick out the patterns in what you and I enjoy and begin to simulate them back at us until we live in a world where we cannot tell the difference between being human and being fooled?
My first reaction was no, and then now I sit with a different answer. We have major problems with mental health in this country, even coverage by insurance. If people are lucky enough to have insurance, which I do, you still may not find a good therapist within your coverage. So you'll end up paying out of pocket. We talk about mental health being the solution to so many problems in this country. Yet if you just show up and go to any therapist, you might not get the help you need. If AI could reduce the costs of this and more people could have access to mental health care, then I absolutely think this could be groundbreaking.
The research indicates Earth's neighbor trembles more often and more mildly than expected. The largest tremor recorded a magnitude of 4.0. Over 235 Martian days, there were 147 seismic events.
Robot overlords. Sentient computers.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Armageddon. This is what many people fear when artificial intelligence or AI comes to mind.
I'm Martin Hitch, and I'm the Chief Business Officer at Bossa Nova Robotics. I think AI is is misunderstood. We have this expectation that it's going to take over. And the reality is we're many, many, many years away from AI being sentient.
Instead, what we are seeing today are devices like Amazon's Alexa, Google's Home, or Apple's Siri. These gadgets may sound sentient.
It's 61 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly sunny skies.
But really, they're far from it.
Hi, I'm Robert Monroe, and I'm the CTO of Figure 8. The AIs that we're building are AIs that we can smartly interact with. So they're not optimized to be independently intelligent. They're optimized to be our guides, our assistants, the extensions of our memory.
Aside from consumer electronics, artificial intelligence's greatest promise may be in transforming entire industries. The underlying technology making this happen is known in the tech community as supervised learning.
You have humans who are able to provide the training data for algorithms to then automate a task. So for example, a self-driving car knows how to avoid a pedestrian, knows how to stay in the lane, because humans have sat down with images taken from the front of these cars and said, this is a human, this is the lane which marks the edge of the road. And it's these thousands and thousands of hours of human feedback which ultimately enables a self-driving car to be trained to automate this task.
Google's Waymo is on the forefront of self-driving car technology and is using supervised learning to drive it forward. But in fact, transportation is just one area that is booming in the field of artificial intelligence.
Google, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft are all moving ahead at a great speed in improving this artificial intelligence software. So it's very exciting. Software is going to solve that, where it'll look at all the new information and present to you, knowing about your interests, what would be most valuable. So making us more efficient.
We're focusing on what we've talked about on autonomous systems. And we sort of see it as the mother of all AI projects. So autonomy is something that's incredibly exciting for us. We'll see where it takes us.
If someday we got to the point where there were robots every place, they were running farms, they were running Apple, they were running Berkshire Hathaway, and all you had to do was one person could punch a button at the start of every morning, and all the goods and services that we're getting now would be turned out by robots.
I'm here on 14th Street in New York City, where hundreds of people are messaging friends and family with their phones. But while they're texting, the FBI, advocacy groups, and government agencies are all battling over who can read those text messages. Most messages, like those sent from WhatsApp, which was the most popular messaging app in 2019, or Apple's iMessage, are encrypted. That means that they are kept private from everyone except the intended recipient. And while these platforms aren't perfect, Jeff Bezos' phone was recently accessed through a malicious video message via WhatsApp. Many people rely on the privacy that encryption provides daily.
Encryption is basically how you lock your door online.
Some law enforcement agencies and dignitaries like Attorney General William Barr would argue that the protection provided by encryption also protects criminals and terrorists.
There are situations where we would want the government, for example, to be able to get access to certain information.
The president believes tech companies like Apple should be building encryption with so-called backdoors.
I don't care. We have to find out what's going on.
The benefits of encryption as a tool are practically countless, and few would argue that on either side. The issue is who should be able to use that encryption and for what.
On the one hand, you have law enforcement and government agencies who are arguing that they need access to information in order to be able to prosecute criminals, versus those that are arguing that we need encryption to protect the functioning of our democracy.
And many human rights activists, privacy experts, and members of the tech community believe it is essential to online and physical safety.
If we don't have encryption, if we don't have that level of anonymity, then we simply can't exist online. And sometimes that might mean not exist in life.
End-to-end encryption saves lives. It saves lives. You
might be surprised how many services use encryption to keep data private. Banks use encryption for mobile payments and deposits. iMessage and Signal use end-to-end encryption to secure message data, and encryption is also used to protect sensitive data like health data.
Your web browser has strong encryption in it. Like whenever you buy something online, there's really strong encryption happening in the background of it to protect your credit card and your transaction.
To put it very simply, when information is sent from user A to user B, the information is converted into a jumble of nonsense. That nonsense is encrypted and decrypted according to a key. User B uses that key to decrypt the information, and this is all done digitally.
Encryption is the science of secret codes, but it is essentially just math. It's applied math. It's not fancy in terms of technological things. It's fancy math.
It is seeping into our lives in all sorts of ways that we just don't notice. We're just getting better and better at it, and we're seeing that happen in every aspect of our lives, from medicine to transportation to how electricity is distributed. And it promises to create a vastly more productive and efficient economy. And if properly harnessed, can generate enormous prosperity for people, opportunity for people, can cure diseases that we haven't seen before, can make us safer because it eliminates inherent human error in a lot of work.